Department of Social Development says it's considering introducing a universal basic income grant for unemployed South Africans between the ages of 18 and 59. The Social Development Minister Lindiwe Zulu says this grant is meant to help alleviate hunger and poverty. She says that while the grant has not yet been implemented, government is working on passing it soon.
SASSA has a comparatively well-developed infrastructure that reaches far more, 31.2%, than any other agency. Therefore, the basic income grant will result in most of the poorer individuals continuing to access the COVID-19 SRD social grant benefits. Obviously, the basic income grant will simply cover an ease of grant administration, granted that our current social security grant system does not permit universal coverage. The current proposal will help realize the government's broader social security reform. The basic income grant will be unconditional, individually targeted at all the levels that will lift individual South Africans out of poverty. The discussion about the basic income grant has been going on for a very long time, and we still have to, though it's not something that we're going to implement tomorrow. There's quite a number of things that we have to do and systems that we have to put in place to make sure that it covers the correct people. Since we already have category grants for children, older persons and persons with disability, the basic income grant will be an income support grant for the population aged between 18 and 59, and these are the people who are always finding themselves falling in the cracks.
Well, the Minister of Social Development, Lindiwe Zulu, she joins me now. Minister, good afternoon to you. Thank you for your time on Newsfeed today. Firstly, we've had this debate around the basic income grant, 15, maybe 20 years. When you say it's now back on the table, what do you actually mean? Where are we with it?
Yes, Stephen, I think I'd like to put the record straight firstly so that there's no confusion out there about the issue of the social grant being something that is going to start tomorrow. I see that it has excited a lot of people. I want to put it straight that yes, we are having a conversation and in discussion, and we are looking at what is it that we can do in a much more substantial way to support our people. And therefore, the issue of the basic income grant became one of those issues that was spoken about on the basis that as way back, as you rightfully say, as way back as 2002, the conversations were already there, and there was a process that culminated in the Taylor Committee, and that Taylor Committee is the one that made the proposal and presented a report then. However, the discussions did not go any further, and understandably so, because once you make a decision like that, a policy decision like that, when you make it, you also have to make it on the basis of availability of the resources, of engaging widely in society about it. And so this is where we are right now. This matter is not only under discussion by us as a Department of Social Development, but also even outside of government. You can see that it generated a lot of interest. And this is also was propelled by the current challenges that we are facing now of COVID-19 and the results and impact thereof. You can see that issues of poverty, hunger, and unemployment are really something that is right in the front for everybody. And so collectively, we do need to look at different ways in which we can be of assistance to people. And it's not about just being assistance and saying, no, we're just going to give you money and all that. Remember that there's a whole range of other support systems or the social development basket that we can talk about that assist. But you will realize that in that process, you have the gap between the 18-year-olds and 59-year-olds who basically should be active and productive people that we need to think about.
This issue has come up before. I mean, there was a conversation in the ANC in 2012 around what at the time was called a job seekers allowance, particularly because it was young men who had no chance of getting any social grant at all. It seems the balance on this argument has changed slightly, that certainly I think if you had to go and ask most of society, do you think there should be a basic income grant, I think most people would say there probably should be.
Oh, Stephen, I'm so unfortunately your sound is very bad. I didn't hear that properly.
All right, let me simplify the question then. I think if you had to ask everyone in South Africa, should there be a basic income grant, I think most people would say they should be. This would have wide support.
Yeah, absolutely. If we were to ask people about that issue, it would be an automatic yes. But of course, we must always be conscious of the fact that we must not be ahead of ourselves, and I cannot be ahead of myself either. Therefore, the consultation, the discussions, and the final decision that needs to be made will have to be made. But obviously, government will have to take a lead. Government will have to make bite the bullet where government needs to bite the bullet, because when all is said and done, we lead because we are supposed to be leading people who also must get an opportunity to speak to government itself. And we can see right now that the challenge is quite big for us. But I must hasten to say, Stephen, the issue of being able to do that must also be looked with a balance as to whether do we have the resources or not. And for me, the answer lies in us as government, as private sector, as everybody looking into what can we do and how do we deal with it. Because if you look at how much government is already spending on social grants and how much government is spending even on the 350 that President Cyril Ramaphosa rightfully decided upon, and we can see the impact of that in cushioning people. But also I know that the majority of the people who are being cushioned, they're not only just receiving the money and sitting down and doing nothing. Some of them, I've seen so many people saying, the money will help me to go and find other things that I can do, to buy little things to sell, to buy vegetable to go and sell. So it's very clear that South Africans overall are looking for government to be seen to be the caring government that will support them. But they also not are people who are just sitting at home and saying, I'm not going to do anything, I'm just going to sit at home and wait for some money coming from somewhere. So the discussion and the debates that we have now generally has to make sure that there is broader discussion with the broader society, and we want to encourage this debate to happen now, and we want to encourage this debate so that it can help us to finally come to a conclusion and implementation. Because rightfully we say in 2002 there was a Taylor report, there was all this. Let's go back and see, since the Taylor report, what are the things that we've done in between as programs to address what we are addressing now, and how much have those had an impact? But if you look at it, you see that the issue of poverty in particular, it's still ravaging the country. And when you think about it, of the impact of COVID-19, when people used to be able to go out and hustle for themselves, they are unable to do that. We don't even know how long this is going to be. But COVID or no COVID, when all is said and done, at the center of what we do, we need to think about the felt needs of our people. We need to step up and make proposals so that the debate can continue, but the debate must come to a conclusion at some point. It can't be an endless debate for us as a Department of Social Development, and for me in particular as a Minister of Social Development responsible for the well-being of our people, and in particular those who are vulnerable. And by the way, Stephen, can I say, this cannot be a discussion for the Department of Social Development alone, even in government, because government has had a number of interventions. So we need to say 18-year-olds under normal circumstances must be at university, must be at technicon. If any they can't, then they must be able to get into a job or something. So the Departments of Labor, the Departments of Education, the Department of Economic Development should be at the center of having this conversation with us so that we can take the process forward. And lastly, when all is said and done, the president as the leader will also have to make will make the input to say to us, are we able to make it or not? But we must make the proposals. You know, we can't be sitting on the sideline and not making proposals so that we take this to its final conclusion.
Minister, is there any conversation about how much people would receive? Would it be 350 Rand? Is that the number people are talking about?
No, at the moment, Stephen, I wouldn't want to entangle myself in that, because the conversation still needs to continue. There must be a scientific approach to it. Just like we have a SASA, SRD, which is social relief of distress, you have food parcels, and there is an amount for the food parcels. You've got food parcels that are in the department. There is an amount for that. There was a scientific approach to it to say what should be in that basket that is called that is being distributed to people. What informs it, and therefore what should be the cost. Therefore, the debate must go out there to say how much, how, when, and all that. That's the debate we are starting right now. We are encouraging that debate to go on.
Do we have the capacity to actually do it? So government can't at the moment afford to pay workers an increase that was already agreed to. Government's already running short of money, and this has got to be a huge part of the conversation. Can we afford it?
Well, look, we have to get into a conversation, and if the conversation says to us, no, government cannot afford it, we have to always look for solutions. I'm a person who's always optimistic and always thinking we are a government, and a government that has to be seen to be doing something, and if that something is something that we can take forward, we will take forward. If there are challenges in between, what are the challenges in between? Can we discuss? And also, can it stop being just an issue for government alone? Because poverty, unemployment, and inequality, economic transformation, all those issues that the government of the African National Congress has put in place, has always been saying, can we have a conversation? Can we talk to each other so that we build scenarios, we see which scenario will work and which scenario cannot work. But when all is said and done, I want to repeat again, the face of poverty in South Africa is that of women in particular. The face of poverty is black women in particular, and I'm not using the issue of the color for any other reason, but the facts are on the table. The face of poverty is clearly articulated by Stats SA, is clearly articulated by a number of other social scientists who are out there, but we need to make sure that we change this issue of poverty. We lift our people out of poverty. We empower our people to be able to take care of themselves. And whatever it takes for us to do that, this is the time for us to do that, because we cannot afford to live in a country where there is so much growth in the ones who are unemployed and are in poverty, and then on the other side, and I know at this time we're talking about even those that are facing a challenge now because their businesses are falling and all that. But as much as we are looking at COVID-19 and its impact and see the interventions that we are pushing through, and we've mobilized people, including mobilizing, for instance, your Solidarity Fund, who are actually stepping up to us to say, let's have a conversation, let's take this forward. So we need to do exactly the same in dealing with the issue of poverty and saying poverty is just as dangerous to our people because it leads to a whole range of other social ills. Unemployment leads to a whole range of social ills. This is the time for us to unite as South Africans and say, let us hold the bull by its horns and be seen to be responding adequately. And we must make sure that our responses must equal the challenges that we face as a nation.
Minister, I really do appreciate the time. Thank you very much indeed. Lindiwe Zulu is the Minister of Social Development.